Welcome into Rounding the Bases, presented by Community America Credit Union, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist. My name is Joel Goldberg, and today I have a pair of guests. We've done some episodes with 2 guests, 3 guests. I don't know, and I got to think about it. I probably should have thought a little bit more. I don't think I've had a husband and wife team on the show. If I have, it's slipping my mind, but I mean, we've definitely had 2 or 3 people. And this episode, truly, each of my guests could come on individually and talk about the successes that they have had, and one in private equity, the other in credit-related asset management. Each of them have had very successful careers. And I could go and list all of the accomplishments, and we'll hit some of those as we're going. However, if I were to list all of the accomplishments for each of my guests and then do that twice, that would take about 30 minutes because they've done so much. But I think that the really exciting part about Angie and Chris Long right now is what they are doing in the Kansas City community. And this has moved very quickly, or maybe they would say it moved very slowly. I don't know. We'll find out here in just a moment. But they are the founders and owners, along with Brittany Matthews, of the new women's soccer team in Kansas City. Casey Woso, at least for now, we don't know what that name is going to be. So let's just jump right into it, and we'll get into the background and what's going on, because there is a lot to cover with Chris and Angie Long. I think my first husband and wife team to join the show, and now proud owners of a young, new, I should say, professional soccer team here in Kansas City. Chris, Angie, how are you both?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having us today, Joel. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's good. It's good to have you both. I certainly want to delve into your backgrounds because, as I told you in advance, the show is really about business. It's about leadership and the ties to sports, which both of you have long histories with and now are knee deep in again. I think are always so perfect for the business world. But I want to talk about this timeline because I said that this happened quickly. Nothing happens quickly. But to me, when I look back at the timeline, and I feel like Casey Woso now is a major part of the culture here in Kansas City, and yet a year ago, this wasn't official yet. So, Angie, I'll start with you. How hectic, how crazy was that timeline?
It's been fast, and I think we anticipated that for sure. But there's been a lot to do to get this team ready, but I will say I'm always so excited and so proud when I walk into that stadium and see all of our fans and all of Kansas City, supporting our team. And like you said, in a way it has seemed so fast, but there's another part of it that seems, we really have been here for a while, and the community has accepted us as another major professional sports team immediately. Such a great soccer town.
It is, and I'm not surprised by it in the least bit, provided that everything is done right, and you guys obviously and your team and everybody behind the scenes, that's the responsibility. I'm not surprised at the fan reaction. As long as something is done right here and the the heart, the intention is in the right place, people will come and support it. They they love this city. They love anyone that wants to represent their city. What were the challenges, Chris? I mean, there's so many elements to making this right, and you have to make that first impression too. What were the challenges with this quick timeline?
I always love to frame challenges as opportunities, so I'll kind of talk to it from that direction. We had to create. And I don't know that this has ever been done before, a world-class professional sports organization in a record period of time. So opportunities were, things like relocating the players and making sure that they immediately felt the warmth and love of the Kansas City community and all it has to offer. Creating an inaugural brand. Figuring out all the facilities and all the things that, come with, equipment and gear, the website, merchandising. You could go on and on and on. It really started from scratch. So I'd say that, in some ways you look at that laundry list of stuff and you think, oh gosh, those are all challenges. But we looked at it as this, who has the honor to be able to do that? We felt honored and privileged and really stewards of something special that we can build it from ground zero.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, and I mentioned this before we came on, that Kathy Nelson, president and CEO of the Kansas City Sports Commission, who is so influential in my opinion, everything that goes on in the sports world and sometimes beyond here in this town. I was telling you that, she had quoted Billie Jean King saying pressure is a privilege. And that's what you guys had. You were certainly under pressure. I mean, you had to get this right, but I think that there's a mindset to it. And I'm wondering, before I talk about how you balanced all of that, I'm wondering when the point is, this doesn't happen last November or December, where the two of you say to each other, you know what, we'd like to own a soccer team. And I'm simplifying it in some way, in a humorous way, but then again, we have a husband and wife team here, both of whom you've both been extremely successful in your professional careers. I think anyone that knows anything knows that owning a sports franchise is probably something more you do out of love for Sports City or creating something than it is to actually get rich off of. So what was that conversation?
I think for us, we've been huge fans of women's soccer for a long time. And Kansas City used to have a team. And when the team left, we were, as fans, very sad about it. And, we didn't know it was coming. We didn't see it coming. So I think almost from the moment they left became, at least for me, how can we get a team back here? I don't think in 2017 the thought was, how can we get a team back here, but how can the city get a women's professional team back here? And then Chris took our second daughter to France for almost a month in 2019 during the World Cup. And I came over with the rest. We have 4 kids. So I came over with the other 3 kids for maybe a week of that trip. And our daughter was playing in a lot of youth games and then, watching a lot of the World Cup games. And I could feel this, I would say, international or global tipping point in women's soccer when we were there. The amount of excitement, because we've been fans of the women's national team, the U.S. women's national team, for a long, long time. But to feel all of, the European fans equally interested in international women's soccer was incredible. And hearing about all of their leagues growing, sort of, I almost felt like I felt in '99 when the U.S. won, of like, wow, this is a monumental change. But it felt like that globally. And so that really sparked an interest. And we have a really good friend from Princeton that was a classmate of ours who we talked to a couple of weeks later. Chris was talking to Kara Nortman, and she said, I was over in France. And he said, wait, I was there at the same time. They didn't realize
Same
it.
match.
So we started talking, and then Kara and I connected, and she said, I'm putting together a group of all female ownership to bring a team to LA. And I was like, bring it. How do you do this? Like, literally, we were like, how do you bring a team? And she said, well, you can buy one or you can do expansion. So I think that was probably, at least for me, the moment of, wait, this is actually maybe something we can do, rather than just be sad that the team is gone. We can be part of the solution and an ability to bring a team back. And then, over the summer of 2020, Hugh Williams, who's now the coach, sent us a message and said, hey, any interest bringing a women's team back to Kansas City? And at that point, we sort of felt like, okay, this is our moment, as we watched what was happening in LA and considered, is LA something we want to be a part of? Could we do something like that in Kansas City? And then we went, I think the middle of the summer in 2020 until we got the team here, and on December 7th was the intense time of figuring out, how do we get a team here and what are all the steps that need to do and how do we pull it together?
Chris, was that a both on the exact same page, or was that, hey, we should do, wait, are you crazy? Or was this both like the light bulb goes, I mean, you might say you're both crazy, I don't know, but did the light bulb kind of go off collectively?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we were undoubtedly on the same page. And, you think about this community, and I'll just add that angle to it. I mean, we've got the largest youth soccer league in the United States. People are so passionate about sports in general, but soccer, I think, in particular. And I was like, how do we not have these amazing women role models right in our backyard? And I think we kept putting all these sort of pieces of the puzzle together and saying, it just led to us driving it forward. I mean, once we started, we didn't stop. I mean, we had to work with the league. We had to meet other owners, had to demonstrate, why this marketplace was a great spot for the NWSL, so on and so forth. And I'm just so glad it worked.
So I want to get back to the timeline because, and this is on the website too, on the Casey Woso website, that, okay, you're granted the expansion team on December 7th. By January 5th, I mean, you're looking at what, 5 or so, less than 6 weeks later, you're doing tryouts, and within less than 2 months, training camp is starting. I mean, that's just the sports side of it. That's not the business side of it. And, you both know this. I know it just in the world of baseball and seeing everybody that is a part of something, that it takes a whole community to get this right, beyond just the fan base. And you mentioned, Chris, the privilege, the opportunity of this, but how much were you both able to tap into your successful business careers of running organizations and having to manage people to be able to hit this fast timeline? And I suspect try to build a culture from the start too.
Yes. I'd say, really 3 things aided us in being able to accomplish all that we did in such a abbreviated time frame. First is here at Palmer Square, which is our asset management firm, everything is client first. And so we effectively took that mindset and adopted a player first mentality for KC NWSL. Same general concept. And that worked incredibly well, because then you make decisions based upon the most important ingredient every time. Even if you're making those decisions quickly, you've got that at the core. I'd say 2 was, we were fortunate to live in a community that's pretty tight. The business community in Kansas City really looks out for one another. And we had things that had to happen really fast. Like for example, housing. We had to get the entire team first-class housing in a really short period of time. So the community stepped up, and there's myriad of examples of instances like that Kansas City just stood proud on. And I'd say the third thing is, we're at a position in our careers where we are able, I think, in a really good way, able to identify, leaders that come in and really impact the situation. So, we created a front office that we're really proud of today. We've got just unbelievable leadership there. We continue to add to it, and we were able to do that really quickly. And I think that we did benefit from having, had such a long professional career to be able to move and make decisions that were impactful.
Angie, how are the similarities between, say, the world of Wall Street and everything that you dealt with to building this the way you did?
I mean, they're both really competitive, right? They both move really fast. I think another similarity, I've been a trader for, the first part of my career, and chief investment officer for the second part of my career. And, you have a plan for what you're going to do for the day or the week or the month, but the news oftentimes changes your plan, right? Things will happen that you need to kind of react to. And so I think that's kind of similar in a lot of ways. But it's also, but I think that the competitive environment, and I've been really, really lucky to be part of organizations that are excellent, right? And so everybody working together to achieve that excellence is something that I think goes across, but both the sports world and the financial services world as well.
I just add to that one thing that's undoubtedly similar too is there's a scoreboard. I mean, when you run an investment firm, people know your performance, right? Like you're hired to earn a return for somebody, and then that return is measurable. It's identical in sports. And I think there's a certain thrill in that, and it takes the right mentality to want to be part of something that measures you so often. But yeah, it's undoubtedly a similarity that we're accustomed to.
Yeah, I was thinking about that though, as you were saying it, because we're all measured by the scoreboard, no matter what we do, right? I mean, in my world, we might be measured by ratings. The soccer team, the baseball team, they're measured by wins and losses. The players are measured by their stats. So that's performance based, obviously, just like the world that you both came from. The question then becomes, and you already addressed it a little bit, is how do you create that culture, and how important is it? So when you talk right away about the importance of getting to these women in the proper housing and making the right impression and all of that, it very much reminds me of everything I've heard from Dayton Moore with the Royals, that the moment they acquire a player via a trade or free agency, and it might be the last guy on the roster, his first thought with his staff is, do we need to take care of his wife or his girlfriend, and how do we roll out the red carpet for that first impression? So that's a small piece of the culture. How much of that, if at all, is similar to the world that you came from, or is that world specifically just about the scoreboard and it's about your numbers and that's it? Is culture more important in this sports world, or is it equal?
I think it's undoubtedly equal. You've got to set up a culture where you foster good communication. People care about one another. Whether that is taking care of their family as they move here, getting that good impression, or it's just ensuring that there's resources they have to talk about anything. Whether it's physical related, mental related, you name it. So if you parallel that to the business world, you're always trying to make sure that people feel connected not only with each other but the overall organization and its mission. So I think it's very similar.
And it's funny. I think for most of our careers, we're athletes before we were in finance, right? And a lot of the same characteristics that make people successful in sports, I think, make them successful in our world as well. Driven to win, playing as part of a team, being part of an organization that's bigger than just you, but finding your unique skill set that makes you additive to that organization. And when we put together we always call our employees our team, right? The team at Palmer Square. And what's the makeup of our team? And so I think we've kind of always inherently thought about those in a very similar way. I mean, even to the point where we have a quarterly MVP at
which we stole from the Royals, by the way, when they were doing that. I think it was the 2014 or 2015 run. Yeah. We read about it and we're like, that's brilliant. And so we did sort of adopt that from.
Because there is always, and again, like in sports, there's objective measures of performance, but then there's things that you can't necessarily measure by the numbers, which is how does what you are doing, contribute to the overall environment. There's also I think a really big element in both of leadership and mentorship, and the senior leaders on your team bringing into the fold your rookies or your newer members of the team and getting them used to the pro leagues and what all of everything that takes on the field and off the field.
I love that too, because it's true. I think in every profession that not everyone needs to be the one that is, well, the superstar. Not everyone needs to be the one that is putting up the points, the runs, the score on the scoreboard. And oftentimes it is those senior leaders. There are a million examples of it that may not be the star, but you can't win without them, right? It's
right.
figuring out who is that quarterly MVP that deserves that recognition, that maybe might not usually get that, may not even want it, but yet when everybody buys into that too. So how quickly has that happened, Chris? I mean, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that process is never done. It's ongoing every single day, but it takes a long time to build a culture. When I got here in 2008, Dayton Moore said to me, I said, what are we trying to do? Actually, I was here in 2007, the year before, working in St. Louis and visiting with Cardinals. And I met him and I said, what are you trying to do in Kansas City? And they said, I'm trying to build a championship culture. And I'm not just talking about the 25 guys in the locker room. I'm talking about the ticket takers and the vendors and the accountant and the security guard and the fans, everybody. And so to me, that picture of 800,000 people in the parade that Kathy Nelson organized, there's your culture right there. There's everybody on the same page. So how quickly I know how quickly you've been able to build the culture, but how do you feel the culture is very, very early in the stages of Casey Woso?
We're super, super pleased with it. Like you said, you're always refining things. And I feel like it's the Kobe Bryant. I mean, every day you're just trying to get better, right? It's one of his 10 rules. So that's undoubtedly us as well. But, if you look at the front office, you look at the team, I think they are all on the same page as far as, the love of the game, the love of the club, and the love of the city. And that's all you can really ask for. But it'll be fun, no doubt, as we get more and more seasoned to create more and more kind of quarterly MVP type opportunities that, become ingrained in the culture. So there is an aspect of seasoning, which is going to be fun too. But I think we've come a long way in a short period of time and culturally super pleased with it.
Yeah. I think what's a little bit interesting and a little bit different about what we're doing is there is a big change in the culture of women's sports. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more than just the culture of us and our one team on the field and everything that what we're doing in Kansas City. I think it extends to, what LA is doing with their professional women's team and what San Diego is doing with their professional women's team. And I think the women's professional teams getting facilities, fans, brand, just like any other professional sport is probably the biggest cultural change that we have going on right now. And that's been really fun to not only be a part of, but to be a part of driving.
It's exciting. It is. And it's exciting just to see it in the infant stages right now and to see where it can go. Before I get to my baseball theme questions, I just wanted to ask, I know people have asked you this a million times, but how did you meet? Did you meet at Princeton? And what were kind of the dreams for each of you back then, beyond whatever personal or not? What you both went on to have successful careers, are doing so. I don't think you were sitting back at Princeton saying, one day I want to own a women's soccer team, but what was it private equity? Was it Wall Street? How did you meet, and what were the dreams?
Yeah, so I mean, we met at Princeton. I'll say I think I spotted Angie from afar, and immediately of the mindset, how do I get to meet that girl? And then quickly became friends actually through class, and the fact that we both shared a passion for economics and finance. But then lucky enough to start dating in 1996. We got engaged at the end of 1998, and we got married in 1999. So, we are already have celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. As far as dreams, we're living them now. You're absolutely right; they weren't as clearly identified back then. But I honestly wanted to go to Wall Street, stay there, rise up the ranks. I loved everything about investment banking and finance. And so, even in the summers in college, I was seeking out opportunities to be in and around Wall Street. So that now, obviously, we don't exist on Wall Street, but we do exist within that ecosystem. And it's been really fun to create something special here in KC that effectively is a cog in the bigger Wall Street wheel.
Yeah, I mean, so we met in Princeton. I agree with his story of of the evolution, but we've kind of been partners always. We studied together in economics at school, and we've always been each other's best friend and confidant. And it's been probably the greatest thing that I never would have thought about, because I didn't even consider that it was possible, is to continually build things together with Chris. Has been amazing to have, the best life partner and the best business partner and the best adventure partner. That has been incredible. I think for me, what I don't think I necessarily did envision, I'm going to go into finance, I'm going to go into this. I always wanted to, my dad was sort of a serial entrepreneur. I love to create things. And those have been, I think that the two things that I love most are competing to win and building things and creating things. And so that's what, Chris started Palmer Square, and I came on to help him, and we've built an amazing firm here in Kansas City where it didn't exist. And together we're, building a sports franchise that before it didn't exist. And those are the most rewarding things to look around and say, we've impacted all of these lives. And what's really fun about sports is to see all of the lives, within the community that we're impacting that go beyond the team and the staff, but the city.
Yeah, I would say that just the biggest upside of the involvement in sports at this level has been, wow, the community impact and the possibilities are amazing. I mean, you really have a sort of pole position in, whether it's impacting nonprofits, it's, looking at youth at the game and standing around the field afterward, waiting for autographs. I mean, it's impacting lives in a big way.
Well, first off, congratulations on 22 years of marriage. And anybody can do that math and go 99 to 2021. But my wife and I are 1999 too. So as long as I'm 22 as of June, I'm not in trouble. It's been long enough that, both of us sometimes say, okay, how many years is that again? And so that in itself is a success story for all of us. One more question then, and this is about your day job, so to speak, with Palmer Square Capital. How do you, Chris, you said to me before, how do you do all of this with the podcast, the baseball? And I'm sitting there thinking, how do you do all of this? So how do you guys balance all of this? Not to mention being parents with kids and all that fun stuff.
Great people around us. That's been something we always strive to do. And we're so blessed, you sort of refer to it as who luck. Like, there's a lot of different types of luck that you can have, one of which is the people you associate with. And that's kind of, who luck. And we've got that in both now Palmer Square, which is obviously a much, much older business, but now equally as much so in the soccer side as well.
All right, let me get to the baseball themed questions. And I had one other thing. I was just curious. This is just a curious thing. I don't know if the audience is going to care, but did you guys cross paths with Chris Young, the former Royals pitcher at Princeton, or did you just miss him?
So missed him, although I played basketball at Princeton, so share that, and we've met on numerous occasions. I actually was at an awards banquet where he was honored, and it's maybe 2 years ago now, pre-COVID, not long ago at all. And what a prince of an individual, so accomplished. We watched him with such pride, just for a whole host of reasons.
I was just curious. He's one of the best that I covered. He used to sit right behind me on the plane too, and so we would talk about this and that. And we all knew that he'd pretty much go and do whatever he wanted to. And now he's the general manager of the Texas Rangers. But if you had told me and still could tell me that he'll be the commissioner of baseball one day, I would believe it. He's just,
Wow.
yeah, you both know. So, all right, let me get the baseball themed questions if I don't keep interrupting myself with that. How about collectively or however you want to go with this? What's the biggest home run that you guys have hit?
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's Chris. Each other.
Absolutely.
And I will say that usually I try to steer my guest away from saying getting married, but I haven't, or, you know, meeting their spouse. But the fact that the two of you have been such a dynamic duo, I mean, it's really been a part of all of your success beyond just the personal side of it, which is, I'll ask it this way, along with the home run. What's the secret? Because there are a lot of spouses, couples that love each other dearly and could never work together.
We hear that all the time.
Yeah,
oh my
I'm
God,
sure
how do
you
you
do,
work?
but
I could never work with my spouse.
But it works for you two. How does it work so well?
Well, I think we have very different but very complementary skill sets and very, you know, specific roles in what we do. So I think if you can, you know, in my mind, the best partner is one that you totally see eye to eye on the mission, but then you are able to divide and conquer and still stay connected. So I can run 100 miles an hour doing what I need to do for the business. Chris can run 100 miles an hour doing what he needs to do for the business. And I know there's no better person doing what his part of the job than him. And I trust him. So, you know, together we can just accomplish a lot more.
How about a swing and a miss? I'm not asking personally with each other, but a swing and a miss professionally with something, a business endeavor or whatever that you think of, and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh, I mean we've been blessed with a lot of luck and opportunity over the years that I'm having a hard time thinking off the top of my head of a swing and a miss.
Things we could do different. I mean, so, you know, I would say for me, at least sometimes we're early. Like I'm early, you know, see in, you know, you in the markets, for example, you see something that's going to happen and you're ultimately right, but maybe a little bit early in when it was going to happen.
So is that a patience thing, or I mean, the foresight's obviously there.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, maybe you could miss an opportunity. But let's say you think the market's in for a correction, you take chips off the table, right? But then the market goes up another 10% before it drops 20%. Like that kind of a, you know, maybe that's underestimating if the rest of the world is on the same page as you are as you go to make a decision. I don't know if that's impatience so much as, but I can't think of, it's hard for me to think of a decision that I would undo, that would say, okay, you know, we're here. Because if you go back to history and change it, then you're changing where you are right now as well.
That's a little bit of it too. Like, you know, I don't know, the mistakes you make along the way aren't really mistakes if you learn from them too.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
You know, they become mistakes when they're repeated over and over again. So the last baseball themed question is the one that I wrote the book about, small ball. And in many ways, I think both of you have touched on this because it's a culture question. At least it is to me. What are the little things? They're not the big home runs. They're those small things every day that are part of what you do. It gets back to what I said with Dayton Moore, rolling out the red carpet for someone that is new and making that first impression. What for both of you is small ball? What are the little things that add up to big results?
Oh, I mean, I think, you know, when you're working with people, they don't want to be anonymous. They want to have that, you know, personal connections. Really getting to know people, I think, is a big deal. You know, not only the professional side and ensuring, you know, they're doing their job and making the job of others easier and better and more efficient, but also just getting to know them on the personal side too. You know, really taking an interest in their family. I think you do that on an individual basis, and it certainly adds up big in the aggregate. I think also just, you know, people need, you know, in my view, when they come to the office, they've got to be locked in. I think there's a lot of distractions out there, so I think we look out, if you could right now, onto the trading floor that is Palmer Square. Every single person's locked in. They know exactly what they're focused on today and what they want to accomplish. And I think it's hard sometimes to get a whole organization going in one direction like that. So it's an individual by individual that adds up. It's a little thing that and ultimately becomes a big thing when you do it at scale.
And I think for me, my management philosophy has always been to teach everybody that works for me, teach them everything that I know, so that I can go on and do the next thing and they can do what I was doing. And I think that type of, continually, I want to say pushing people, but working with everyone to make sure that their learning curve stays steep, because I think everybody likes to feel like they're contributing, but also, be pushed a little bit so that the environment stays interesting. And the only way that we can all move forward fast is if we are continually each pushing the envelope, which means that I need to be teaching the people that they can push where I was pushing, and I can push forward even further and to keep building.
All right, good stuff. I've got 4 final questions. It's what I call rounding the bases, and so we'll hit some of it's a little bit lighter hearted, but the first will just be this, and we'll stick to the sports theme a bit. I know that Chris, you were a McDonald's All-American before playing basketball at Princeton. Angie, national rugby champion, former soccer goalie. So obviously the athleticism is in both of your blood. But how would you? I'll let you each do it for yourselves, unless you want to flip flop. Chris, how would you give a scouting report on a young Chris Long, the basketball player? And Angie, what was the scouting report on you? I think of rugby and I think, boy, I don't want to mess with a rugby player, but 2-time national champion. So Chris, you first, what type of basketball player were you?
From a scouting report perspective, I would say, run that kid off the 3-point line as much as possible, and defend him from there. Because that was the biggest expertise I brought, was the ability to shoot from distance. And I look at the players now and I just marvel that, the size, the strength, everything's just bigger, better, faster, quicker, you name it. So that would probably be pretty easy for people to do today. It would run me off the 3-point line.
Angie, how about you as a rugby player? Goalies are tough, most of them. Not me. I was a goalie too.
Goalies are great. I was less crazy than good, but goalies are a little. Yeah. That's mental. Yeah. As a rugby player, okay, well, I'm not the biggest and I'm not the fastest and I'm not the strongest, but I can punt really well. So because of all the years being goalie, and I've got great hands, and I'm really smart, and I communicate well with the team. So I think it's that like leadership on the field, kind of captain as coach type mentality of bringing everybody up. But you wouldn't have needed to be afraid of the physical attributes. I'm not the fastest, sadly.
Sounds like you were both scrappers with specific skills, which very much worked out in college. Okay, the second question, as we round the bases, all 3 of the founders of this soccer club, KC Woso, are former college athletes, and your other founder is one that, well, I guess technically I work for her husband or fiance, because Patrick, we always joke like, hey, there's our owner when he's throwing touchdown passes. But you have a partner in Brittany Matthews, and we see Patrick and Brittany, for that matter, at Royals games all the time. But tell me about that relationship and what she has meant to the organization.
Oh, it's incredible relationship that the organization's blessed to have. She's amazing. I mean, look, authentic, a leader, phenomenal, just a brand that she's created, from all of her beliefs and passions. And, she's impacted so many things. We're working on a permanent brand, merchandising. She's got great ideas, and we're so lucky to be able to partner with her and have them.
She's fantastic. She's just, always has good insight, relates really well to the players, to the fans, and she's fun. I mean, she's super fun, honest, authentic is I think the best word that I could think of to describe her, and she's great.
I just love, and I don't think I've met Brittany. I've met Patrick a couple of times. Just, he'll come down to batting practice every now and then. A little bit less now with COVID stuff, but how much the two of them are invested in this community,
Yes,
to me, is amazing. And it doesn't. I mean, okay, fine, you can make the money and have that, but that doesn't mean that has to be somewhere you want to go. I mean, you see so many of these athletes that certainly could do that. I don't blame them for not, but there's nothing that says Patrick Mahomes or Brittany Matthews have to be investing in the Royals or Sporting or Casey Woso. That's a passion of wanting to be involved in community. So I think that is amazing. Third question as we round the bases, where is this thing with the name going?
I don't know that we can answer every question.
I know you can't answer all of it, but you could dance. I knew I wasn't breaking news here, but you could dance around it. But tell me about this process at least.
Absolutely. I will say we have one. The process by which we got to one was really pretty.
A name, we have a process too, but he means we have
a name, yeah, which is just a recent thing. So you might be the first one to actually really hear that. But the process is one we're proud of. We had a brand advisory committee that was actually chaired by Brittany. She's had a lot of input into this. Kathy Nelson was involved. We've had a lot of, Chris Cabot from Steinberg Sports was involved. We had focus groups. We worked with the fans, randomly selected, multiple iterations of that. We worked with the team. We wanted to get feedback on how they viewed Kansas City, how they wanted the brand to be represented, the coaching staff, the front office. And we really took all of that and distilled it. And it's been a lot of work. I hadn't ever done that before, and it's been a lot of work, but we're at a really good spot. Everyone's going to love it. It's
good. Yeah, look, you know more about this than me. I think that if the culture and everything that we've talked about, the players who I know and see it all over your website too, just about community, about the way you represent community, the way you play. Fans are going to fall in love. They are falling in love already, and so can't wait to hear what the name is. I knew you weren't going to break that, but at least we've broken the news that there is a name. And do we know? Well, what are you willing to say when that is going to be revealed, or is that a secret still too?
I don't think we've fully decided on that piece of it yet.
Putting on that reporting hat right now, which is really not what this podcast is. Suddenly I find myself trying to dig deeper a little bit. But okay, let's move on to the walk-off. And it's an important question. And I just don't know, I'll ask this question sometimes to whether it be athletes, leaders, oftentimes successful business women. And I don't know if it's a good thing that I'm asking it still, or if it's a sign of how far we have to come. But the impact that this soccer club can have to young girls in the community and beyond the community too is so important. You both know that. And so I guess, I say, like, as long as I still feel the need to bring up this question, it means that we still have a long ways to go in terms of equity. But we talk about responsibility, opportunity. How great is this opportunity, Angie? And then Chris, you could jump on after to make an impact on so many young girls. And you mentioned having, I don't know how many daughters of your kids, but you've got at least
two daughters. Yeah.
Right, two. Okay. How important is this?
Oh, I think it's existentially important. I mean, it's, one of our daughters asked me, said, "Mommy, when you were growing up, did you want to play professional soccer?" And I said that wasn't an option. Right. And so I think having that as an option, in a real option, sustainable option, in I think it opens the door for possibilities, and I think that's really critically important. And I think, we're seeing that in basketball and soccer. I think, we need to be seeing more of it in finance and engineering, and there's all kinds of places where there just needs to, more of a presence, and more you can look up and say, oh, I could do that. That person plays like me. That it just changes the world of possibility.
I can't add anything to that. I completely, wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, I realized, as I said, you could piggyback off of that, and I was listening to Angie's answer. I'm like, you should just let Angie have the last word on this one. That was good. And not that you couldn't have done that as well, Chris, of course, but I'm so glad that you both were able to come on. I really appreciate you making time for this. I know that you're both extremely busy, but congratulations on all the early success with KCWO. So I can't wait to hear what the new name is. I'm going to come out and check out a match as soon as baseball's over in October. For those that want to know and continue to support this young franchise, the website is kcwoso.com for now, at least. KCWOSO.com. I suppose that'll be changing whenever the time is right. Continued success with the team, with the season, and certainly with all of your other endeavors as well. Chris and Angie Long, thanks so much for coming on Rounding the Bases.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.